UFC 303 is this weekend. We're going to take a look at some props, three of them in particular that I think we can profit off of. Welcome to Props and Parlays Today. I'm Andy from WagerTalk.com. Let's get into it here. So there's some interesting fights on this card. This was the Conor McGregor card. And so I think there's probably a pretty big letdown as far as excitement for watching this card, but I do think there's some really good bettable opportunities here. So we've got some plays up, or we will have some plays up at WagerTalk.com. I put a weekend pack up for everybody. It's got lacrosse. It'll have UFC, PFL, cross-sport parlay. So pretty smoking deal. I'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about some props here. I have one under and two overs. So let's talk about the under here. And I'm going to go to the female fight, Gillian, Robertson, and Michelle Waterson-Gomez. This under 2.5 at plus 145. I really, really like this one. So I think this is Robertson all day, and we'll talk about Gomez here just for a second. So she's nearing the end of her career. What is she, 1-6 in her last 7 fights, and her win was a split decision. And we look at what's happened with her recently. Amanda Lemos finishes her in round 2, and Marina Rodriguez absolutely beat her up bad in this fight. So Waterson is 38 years old, 39 years old, coming off of a really brutal beatdown. And Gillian Robertson, when Gillian Robertson wins, she wins by finish. So we'll take a look here in her last fight against Polyana Viana, gets the round 2 finish. She loses to Tabitha Ricci, but against Piera Rodriguez, round 2 finish. Against Agapova, round 2 finish. Against Priscilla Cachoeira, round 1 finish. So you see, when she wins by finish recently. So she's going to have just a massive, massive advantage on the ground, Gillian Robertson is. Waterson-Gomez, pretty active on the feet, but once this gets to the ground, it's Gillian Robertson all day. Robertson, her striking is not great, but I thought it looked better against Polyana Viana. It's not great, but it looked better. And Waterson is coming off of just so much damage in the last fight. I got to wonder where her head is at. So Robertson, I believe, gets the finish. I'm going to take the under plus 2.5, though, on this fight. If you want to wait until lines come out and you can take Robertson by finish, that's fine. I would not take just submission because the ground and pound is well within reach. So Robertson under is going to be my first prop for this one. Let's take a look at a plus money over. It's Joe Pyfer and Marc-Andre Barriault. So I've had a good read on Joe Pyfer here. Correctly predicted that Pyfer was going to lose in his last fight against Jack Hermansson. And so here's what's happened with Joe Pyfer. You know, we go back to his Contender Series where he really just crushes Ozzy Diaz, gets the finish, faces Alan Amidovsky, who's just awful, gets the finish. Faces Gerald Meerschaert, who's grappler, and gets the finish. And then Abdul Alisson, who just stands there with concrete shoes, and Pyfer gets the finish. But here against Jack Hermansson, this is what we thought would happen. Jack Hermansson moves around and is a veteran. And what he did was he basically got Joe Pyfer tired. Pyfer just gasses out, and Hermansson pulls away late. It was a big mistake by Pyfer, but I think it was a learning opportunity that he can't go too hard too early and get tired, because once he gets tired, he's rendered useless. So I think going into that fight with Jack Hermansson, he was just kind of fighting with the notion of, I'm going to get the early finish. But what happens if I don't get the early finish? Well, he hadn't really faced that. But against Hermansson, real learning lessons. I think he comes out and is much more disciplined and much more patient. He's got good power. He's got good submission game. But he's fighting Marc-Andre Barriault, who is just a tough, grizzled veteran, man. Goes to decision against Chris Curtis. Goes to decision against Eric Anders. So his last 2 fights going up against guys that will stand and strike with him, as Joe Pyfer will, they're just really tough. Not huge knockout shots, but kind of boxing sparring matches. He does have finishes against Julian Marquez, who Julian Marquez stands and goes for the gusto. He's kill or be killed. He gets choked out by Anthony Hernandez, but that's Fluffy Hernandez. That's what he does. Finishes Jordan Wright. That's what happens. And then Shitty, we have the big knockout. But in these last 2 fights, we're seeing Marc-Andre Barriault, man, minus P's and Q's, turns it into a boxing striking match. And you're getting a Joe Pyfer coming off of a fight where he lost because he got tired early. I think this is a patient performance from both of them. I think this is a really close decision. Wouldn't surprise me if it was split. But as bets go, I don't think Barriault finishes Joe Pyfer because even Joe Pyfer against Hermanson, even though Hermanson had him tired, Hermanson didn't finish him, and I don't think Pyfer's going to go crazy and try and finish Barriault. And even if he does try and finish him, Barriault, man, he's tough. He's really, really tough to finish. So I think this over 2.5 at plus 110 is a really, really good number here. And then the last fight, I think we're going to see an over in the Anthony Smith Roman Dolidze fight. So both these guys are kind of on short notice, but Dolidze had a fight. He did have a fight against Anthony Hernandez a couple weeks ago, so he's not like completely coming off the shelf here. And when we look at what happened with Roman Dolidze here in the last couple fights, Imavov goes to decision, Vettori goes to decision. Imavov's very quick, good movement on the feet. He damaged Roman, and then Roman just kind of hangs on for dear life, and it goes to decision. Vettori, just a slugfest. And when you look at Anthony Smith, we correctly predicted that Anthony Smith was going to give Vitor Petrino trouble. We liked him to win, and he does. He gets the guillotine choke. Against Roundtree, he gets knocked out. But he took this fight against Vitor Petrino because he knew Petrino was ripe to be beaten, and he exploited that. Against Roundtree, it just makes it into round 3. But before that, going to decision against Ryan Spann, going to decision against Johnny Walker. And don't forget, Anthony Smith originally took this fight to fight Carlos Olberg, who's a striker. And I think Anthony Smith saw the same thing in Carlos Olberg that he saw in Petrino, which is this guy doesn't know how to defend. Guillotine chokes, no one's tested his wrestling and his grappling. Olberg backs out, and so now he's left to fight with Roman Dolidze. This is not a fight either one of these guys was prepared for. Anthony Smith, I just don't think is going to finish Roman Dolidze. Dolidze knows Anthony Smith's tricks with the wrestling and the grappling. And you look at Roman Dolidze here, Anthony Smith's got real problems with his striking defense, and he can absorb a lot of damage. And Roman Dolidze, okay, knocked out Kyle Dawkins, whatever. Dawkins isn't even in UFC anymore. Phil Hawes, gets knocked out by everybody. This crazy fight against Jack Hermanson, he was losing and somehow winds up in a calf slicer and gets this ground and pound. But it was a 1 in a million type of finish. So when Roman Dolidze fights guys like Imavov, it's going to decision. Vettori going to decision. Even Staropoli went to decision. Giles, decision. John Allen, decision. So when I'm looking at this fight, I'm not seeing who finishes. I don't think Anthony Smith is going to kick Dolidze at a submission and finish him. I don't think Dolidze is going to piece up Anthony Smith enough to knock him out. So I think this minus 115 is actually a very, very good price. So there are 3 props for you. The Anthony Smith Dolidze over 2.5. You got the Pyfer Barriault at plus money, and then you've got the Gillian Robertson under 2.5 at plus 145. So a couple plus money there. If we go 2 and 1, we're having a fantastic night. So that is what I like for the UFC. Thanks, guys, for joining us on Props and Parlays today. As we keep talking about, it's dog days of summer, man. Not forcing any baseball plays, not forcing anything crazy like that. We have a couple of cross-sport parlays that are up right now. And we've got a weekend pack that's up. It's going to include our lacrosse plays. It's going to include our UFC and our PFL plays. And we're on a nice little 15-9 run. We're going to go over, I'll do a recap of what happened last week, the disaster that was last week. MMA really let us down. But outside of last week, it's been good. And we're not gun shy. We're going to go right back to MMA as it's been a good source of income coming in. Cross-sport parlays, man. Just doing an audit on our plays and on our bankroll. We're 20-8 in our last 28 cross-sport parlays, and we've hit 4 in a row. So we've got several of those that are going to be going this week, and I'm just going to keep leaning into those. In fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's pull up our quick little recap. But anyway, we do have a pack that's up, and I would encourage everyone to get that. It's got lacrosse. It's going to have our UFC. and it's going to have our PFL plays, and we're going to have a cross-sport parlay. So you're getting 4 different sports for one in that weekend package. We've been very low volume. Haven't had any plays settled this week. We've got a couple parlays with a couple parlay pieces and some futures in the soccer. But talking about low volume and quality over quantity, that's what we're depending on this week. So encourage everyone to go grab those, and let's make it a very profitable weekend. Having a very solid year, very happy with the bankroll, and looking forward to adding to it this weekend. So, all right. So once again, we talk about our percentages that we recommend to play. I am having an interesting discussion in the Discord channel actually this morning about flat betting. I am still flat betting all of our plays, and I love it. I'm probably not going to be changing that anytime soon. I haven't really come across any plays that I wanted to go crazy on. That's not really my style. But I'm moving more and more towards flat betting all of our plays. So this is our percentage that we recommend. So 5% play, you're betting to win 3 units. 4% play, you're betting to win 2 units, et cetera, et cetera. So last week's recap, it was ugly in a couple sports. MMA was the big one. We made a pretty big stand on PFL, and what we did not take into account was just the altitude. Salt Lake City, it threw off everything, and you could see it early on, and early on there was just nothing we could do, and it ended up being just a complete disaster. So it's okay. It was one bad week in PFL. We have PFL on Friday, and we're going to have plays in it, and we're going to be just fine, and we're going to rebound. So when we're looking at last week, that's what happened. And it was just one of those weeks. It was a cursed week. We put Kelvin Gastelum in a parlay, and Gastelum was the piece I was worried about. He wins easily. And then the other parlay piece, the Pavlovich and Volkov goes the distance. We had that to not go the distance. Just crazy. So soccer wasn't very good. We stopped soccer after 2 plays. And I know 0-2 for -8 units is terrible. That could have been way worse. I think there are some people, I know there's some people getting destroyed in these soccer tournaments. So what do we say? The best way to make money is to not lose it. So we've got some futures that are looking good. We put one soccer play in this week, and that one hit. So we were looking pretty good on that front. Tennis was 2-2, lost 2 plays to start. Corbin comes back with 2 more winners. It goes down as -3.94 units, but if you're flat betting like I am, you're much closer to 0. And then we talk about cross-sport parlays, the bright spot, 2-0, +7 units. Leaning into what we've been good at is what the theme of the week is, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So I know there's a certain person that absolutely despises me on the WagerTalk shows, and he makes no bones about it in the comment section, and he says cross-sport parlays, he says they're not real bets. Says those are for people that can't bet. I don't know. Bankroll's doing quite well on cross-sport parlays. If you tell me that you can go 20-8 in something in 28 plays, I am all ears. I don't care what the sport is. So we'll keep leaning into it. And for those of you that follow our cross-sport parlays, first off, congratulations, and great job for just having an open mind and realizing this is about money. This is about investing. This is not about trying to force plays into sports just because you think of them as real bets. So I chuckle when I think of when I see comments like that, and I also feel bad because I know that person is not investing. That person is throwing you-know-what against the wall, and it ain't sticking. So we always talk about when we win and when we lose. It's very, very important to go over these things, and it's really, really important to talk about when you lose so you can go back and say what happened. And I will tell you, last week at altitude, Salt Lake City, valuable lesson. When we have an event at altitude, we tread lightly, and we will be taking overs because it was tough to get finishes in that. And I know we've got a UFC event in Denver that's coming up, and we've got the new gloves. Since they implemented the new gloves, I believe there's only been 4 knockouts on the feet. So combination of Denver altitude and the new gloves, that might be a really, really good time to play some overs in the UFC. So that's our last week recap. Ugly one, but sometimes sometimes you need the ugly ones to get humbled a little bit, and that is certainly what we did. So if you guys could do me a favor, go ahead and hit the like button and leave us a comment. Let's go ahead and let's see, what's the comment today? Roll. The word of the day is roll. So see if you can work the word roll into a comment in the comments section. So thanks, everyone. Don't forget to get that weekend pack. Lacrosse, UFC, PFL, cross sport play, they will all be included in that pack for one price. You're getting 4 different varieties of plays for one price. That is over at WagerTalk.com. It's going to do it for us on Props and Parlays today. We'll be back tomorrow. Andrew and I will be breaking down the weekend. We'll probably look at some CFL as well. Good luck in your plays. See you everyone later.